So, Ireland, oh land that I love, you are so full of weird, quirky little traditions. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about some weird Irish love traditions, but I'm not saying these are things that we do now. They're things that happened once upon a time or have had long-term effects. I'll go through them as we go. I want to give a special shout out to my Karmic Goals crew, the names of whom you will see in the description below. These people are very special to me and they should be very special to you too if you enjoy my content, because without them I could not put out 3 videos a week. So if you see them in comments, say hello mate. I don't know why I did that, but just say hi. They're always floating around down there. Coming in at number 10, if a fella liked a girl back in the day, say around 1800s, he'd wait by her house with a friend and wait to see her door would open, and when it was open he'd throw his cap inside the house, and if the cap was flung back out it meant his intentions were not wanted at that place. If it stayed inside and the front door closed, well, she was fit for courting. Number 9, the night before the wedding or when the engagement was made official, the groom's family and the bride's family-to-be would gather around a table together for a night of decadent food. And one of the things that they would eat would be goose, and this was really, really fancy back in the day. So what would happen was, once the goose was cooked, the groom's fate was sealed. He had to go through with the wedding no matter what. There was no getting out of it at that stage. Because goose is expensive, you know? Number 8, tying of the knot. Some people trace this custom back to Roman times when the bride would tie loads of knots in her, I think it was a dress? Oh, a girdle. I don't even know what a girdle is. Google's my friend. The groom would have to untie the knots in order for the marriage to be made official. But also in Celtic customs, tying of the knot happened when the bride and the groom placed their hands upon each other and finally committed all their vows to each other in front of the whole, I was going to say audience, but that shows you where my priorities are, the congregation or whatever, and they do that and then they tie ropes around their hands and that would be the officialness of the marriage. And actually that's an interesting one because people are doing it again now. It's become cool, like a hipster thing to do at your wedding. It's kind of cute. Coming in at number 7, it's very risque, nudity. But not really nudity. Nudity of the foot. Very often, a large part of the bridal party, or basically everybody at the wedding if people chose, would take off their shoes once the couple were married. And this was to insinuate that, you know, the couple would be getting akin to their feet in clothing apparel later in the evening. It was like a salute to their upcoming task at hand. Moving on swiftly to number 6. My gosh, we all say people throw away money on their weddings nowadays, but it was nothing like it was back then. Well, literally speaking, I mean. Traditionally in Ireland, when a groom would be departing a wedding ceremony, he would throw a load of coins at children. Now, I don't know if these were children who were attending the wedding, or if there were no children, would he just throw coins at random children in the street? Either way, he was just throwing his money away, much like we do today on weddings. But aren't they nice? Yeah, they are. I'm a romantic. It was thought that this simple act would ensure wealth and happiness for many years to come. How simple, how quaint, how expensive. In at number 5, if you think Irish dancing is traditionally quite stiff pre-river dance, wait until you hear about dancing at wedding ceremonies. Yes, Irish dancing required that you keep your hands by your side so as not to be tempted to put your hands anywhere else on the body of your dancing partners. However, traditionally in Ireland, a bride was prohibited from taking her feet off of the floor while dancing. So, you know, she'd be kind of bound down with her arms and bound down with her feet, so she'd just be kind of... I don't know what it looked like. I'm sure they found a workaround. But the reason she did this was supposedly to keep fairies away, and we know fairies are a big deal in ancient Ireland. Apparently fairies love brides. Well, that's what the folks told the kids. What actually the reason was that if a bride took her feet off the floor, there was a possibility of her falling over and a possibility of her revealing her undergarments, which would bring great shame to the family. Not so much shame as scandal. Irish people like to yap, you know? We love a bit of gossip. Number 4, it's Ladies' Day, and I remember this one from being a kid. According to Irish legend, St. Patrick and St. Bridget had a bit of a bickering contest one day, and in order to resolve it, they agreed that one day every 4 years, leap year day, women would be able to propose to men in Ireland, and that's the 29th of February. This was a huge deal when I was a teenager because we interpreted it that girls could ask out boys and it was all very exciting, but it never happened. No tween girls ever asked out tween boys that I know of. If you were a tween girl who asked out a tween boy, let me know in comments, because you are the stuff of myth to me. Number 3. Oh, romantic, romantic, somber words of Irish men. When asking a lady to be your wife, a man would usually say, "Will you marry me?" or "Will you bless me to be your husband?" But in Ireland, not so much. You'd be more likely to find a groom saying,
"Would you like to be buried with my people?"
Or even,
"Would you like to hang your washing next to mine?"
oh, so romantic. 2. It's all about the bride's head, and she better be sure to duck. I'm sure you've heard the term breaking bread. Well, how about the term fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head? That's basically a tongue twister that I just made up right now. No, seriously though, this one's kind of messed up in a way if you think about it. The possibilities and the undertones. So in Irish lore, the groom's parents would welcome the new bride into their house still in her wedding gown, and the bride's mother-in-law would then break a cake over her head. Yep, break a cake over her head. And this was supposed to symbolise that they'd be bestest forever friends for life. Oh god. Imagine if she didn't like her, how hard that cake would come down. Upon breaking the bread over the bride's head, say it again, the younger single people would scramble for pieces of the cake to put under their pillow because it was thought that that would bring them some good luck in their love lives. I knew there was a reason I like cake. Also, Irish brides would traditionally carry a horseshoe with them, and when they left the church, they'd give it to one of their mates who would swiftly throw it over their head. Let's hope they have good aim, because horseshoes are heavy. That was supposed to bring good luck. Well, I guess it was good luck if she didn't get a horseshoe to the forehead. And coming in at number 1, they've all been so crazy, what could it possibly be? Well, it's our excessive use of whiskey. Back in the day, when a boy and a girl decided to get married, it wasn't quite that simple. Their families had to meet up and agree on a dowry. And this is a bit messed up. A dowry was a gift of property or money brought by the bride's family to the groom's family as a gift for, well, they said it was to look after her in the future, but it was also considered to be a way of taking her off their hands. I do wonder what I'd be worth. I do wonder. I'll swap you, Diane, for Daisy the cow. Oh, good dowry, good dowry. When this price was agreed upon, the groom's family and the bride's family would open a bottle of whiskey and they would pour themselves a small drink, leaving some left in the container which they'd put away for later. I'll get back to that. Another time whiskey was and is still commonly used in Irish wedding ceremonies is when the groom's father and the groom would share a small whiskey before the ceremony together. Well, the recommendation is a small whiskey, but I'm sure there are stories. I'm sure there are stories. Next up, after the ceremony, everybody retires to an old ale house and cracks open a bottle of, you've guessed it, whiskey. After the party have all been ousted from the ale house, they all head over to the bride's new house where, guess what? That bottle of whiskey we left up on the shelf still sits. And they give it to the groom to finish it off. Now, if the groom was a nice chap, he'd give an old swig to his wee bride. And when the bottle was nearly empty, this wasn't a formality, but it was more of a thing that people did for the crack. They would throw the bottle of whiskey at something, hopefully not the bride at this point, because their aim would not be so good. And then the couple would go and try and be like feet, if you catch my drift. But that was a lot of whiskey, so yeah. And that's it for today's list. Let me know if you know of any weird love traditions where you're from in the comments below. Blah blah blah, like, share and subscribe, blah blah blah. Thanks for watching. Share this video with your crush. Bye. Where have you been? Just sleeping? Just having a little nap? Yeah. Anyway, the groom would have to untie the knots in order for the marriage to be made official. But also, back in the day, I say that a lot, it's just my understanding of a time that happened long ago. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Fecking a whole loaf of bread at the bride's head. Whoa.